Honoring your body as a temple. As we become adept at mindfulness, we more consistently live in the present, and we also experience glimpses of the connection between our spiritual and physical lives. As we become more aware of our inner life, we experience what might be an unexpected result, which actually is built into the design of life, that our physical life becomes filled with spirituality, and so joy and satisfaction. And we know that joy and satisfaction is not sourced in our physical life because of many experiences of doing the same things and not experiencing joy, like eating delicious food and yet becoming sick from it. So we have this nascent beginning understanding that spiritual qualities of joy and satisfaction are not sourced in the body. But here are some foundational teachings to start this conversation about how we honor our bodies as a temple. It begins with the Epistle of Paul, 1 Corinthians. Don't you realize that all of you together are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God lives in you? God will destroy anyone who destroys this temple. For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. Stop deceiving yourselves. If you think you are wise by this world's standards, you need to become a fool to be truly wise. And now from Swedenborg. The manifestation of life from that underlying reality is what is called the body. So the body is an image of its soul, since the soul carries on its life through its body at will. And again, none of us is judged on the base of our earthly self. Therefore, we are not judged while we are still living in the physical world, because during that time, we are in our earthly body. Rather, we are judged on the basis of our spiritual self. So our judgment occurs when we have come into the spiritual world, because then we are in our spiritual body. It is our spiritual nature that is judged, not our earthly nature, since our earthly nature is not accountable for any blame or crime because it has no life of its own. It is simply a tool or instrument through which the spiritual self acts. Further from Swedenborg. Surely everyone realizes that when people intend to do useful things because they are moved by a spiritual life coming from the Lord, which is what love for heaven means, their earthly self then uses its wealth and other goods to achieve those useful things, and their sense-oriented self carries them out as part of its position and derives honor from doing so. Surely everyone also realizes that all the things we do with our body, we do from the state of mind in our head. If our mind has a love for acts of service, our body uses its limbs to perform acts of service. Our body will do this because our will and our intellect have their primary structures in our head, and the derivations of those primary structures are in our body, so that our will is present in what we do, and our thinking is present in what we say. Again from Swedenborg. There is earthly love and there is spiritual love. When we are engaged in earthly love and spiritual love together, then we are rational people. When we are engaged solely in earthly love, though, we can think just as rationally as spiritual people, but we are not really rational individuals. We do lift up our discernment into heaven's light, into wisdom, but the matters of wisdom or heaven's light are not the objects of our love. It is our love that is making this happen, but behind it is a desire for respect and praise and profit. However, once we realize that we are not getting any benefit from this elevation, as we do realize when we are thinking to ourselves on the basis of our earthly love, then we have no love for matters of heaven's light or wisdom. So our love then pulls our discernment down from its height so that the two will act in unison. For example, when our discernment is filled with wisdom because it has been lifted up, then our love sees what justice, honesty, and chastity are, even what real love is. Earthly love, merely earthly love, can see this because of its ability to understand and ponder things in heaven's light. It can even talk about and preach and describe these as both moral and spiritual virtues. However, when our discernment is not lifted up, then if our love is merely earthly, it does not see these virtues. It sees injustice as justice, deception as honesty, and lust as chastity, and so on. If we do think about the matters we discussed when our discernment was at its height, then we may make fun of them and think that they serve us only to ensnare people's minds. Again from Swedenborg. Most people think that wisdom is what makes us who we are. So when we hear someone speaking or teaching wisely, they believe that this is a wise individual. People even believe this of themselves at such times, since when they are speaking and teaching in public, they are thinking on the basis of their memory. If they are completely earthly minded people, then the source is the surface of their love, a desire for respect and praise and profit. However, when these same people are by themselves, they think from a deeper love of their spirits, not wisely at all, but at times insanely. This shows that no one is to be valued on the basis of verbal wisdom, but on the basis of their life. And finally, from Maurice Nicole, reflecting on the work of George Gurdjieff, the merely sensual person regards their visible body only as real. What they cannot see and touch, they cannot be real for them. There is no evidence, they will say. So believing themselves to be their body, when they attempt to remember themselves, they will, knowingly or unknowingly, remember only their body. This keeps them on the level of the sensual mind in the external divisions of their centers. Well, here are some takeaways from this for me. Spiritual mindfulness, together with good actions, make us temples of God. As our spiritual lives align with love flowing in from the divine, our bodies respond as they are designed to give us experiences of that divine love and its partner, wisdom. Also, one's true quality, determined by one's primary love, affects not just the mind, but the entirety of one's being, including the physical body. This reflects the principle that our spiritual state profoundly influences our physical form and existence. And finally, the relationship between the human spirit and its physical body is the most complex in all of creation. So judgments regarding a person's spiritual quality cannot be made with much conviction. We are rightly wary that we may be merely sensual, natural people driven only by the desire for good reputation or monetary gain. And yet the resolution is actually simple, even though it's hard perhaps to do. And that is to have a practice of mindfulness. And then you will be able to discern any influence of materialism or fear. Honor your body as a temple.